The Mendon-Honeoye Falls-Lima Sentinel welcomes you to this edition of the Mayor's and Supervisors Weekly Update, brought to you by...
Each week, our community makes history. Each week, you make history. And each week, there's only one source to turn to for the first take on history. You know what that is? Subscribe to the Sentinel right now to discover the history being made in your own backyard.
The Mendon-Honeoye Falls-Lima Sentinel. More than just your news, it's your history.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's edition of the Mayor's and Supervisors Update. I'm Chris Carosa, publisher of the Mendon-Honeoye Falls-Lima Sentinel, and each week we bring you the goings-on in the towns and villages that we cover. This week, we'll be starting with Lee Hankins in the town of Rush. Rush, what's going on? Rush, what's going on? Lee, what's going on in Rush?
Good morning to everyone. I'm happy to be here today. I'd like to start by acknowledging John Frew, who retired this month. He has served our town well and deserves our appreciation and best wishes for his many years of service. He will continue to serve on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Plans are well underway for our 26th annual Rush Fall Festival that will be held on Saturday, September 19th. This one-day event will be at our town park called White Springs Farm, located at 6565 East River Road. Our engineering study for our town hall campus has been completed. With this report, we can now complete the application to FEMA to obtain flood insurance for our town hall and campus, which is needed. The tentative budget is expected to be ready this week. As budget officer, I'm preparing a budget that keeps the cost savings we put into place in the beginning of the year and includes our current effort to limit legal costs. Highlights include continuing to save from restructuring and lowering the costs for the finances, buildings, maintenance, and security expenses, while maintaining all services and supports for residents and taxpayers. No raise for my position as supervisor and other elected appointed board members, and a 3.5% raise for employees and other elected and appointed department heads. Continue to prepare grants to seek state and federal funds for capital expenditures and find the funds for the town campus and the salt barn for the highway. When successful, these grants can save taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. Careful review and monitoring of our contract and supply costs using 2024 and 2025 baselines. Because of the increase in cost of healthcare, premiums, and retirement, we need to reduce as much as possible other non-personnel costs where we can. We will need to appropriate funds from our unexpected balance to ensure sufficient funds to pay for necessary expenditures. Fortunately, we have these funds, needed reserve funds. At least, I want to encourage everyone to slow down on our roads. There are still construction projects, farming equipment, and many bicyclists and walkers following the speed limit in our hamlet and neighborhoods. We have many roads crossings to connect our trails. And that's it for me.
All right. Thanks, Lee. Now it's over to Corey Gates, who's in for Joe Elati in the town of Mendon. Corey, can you tell us what's going on in Mendon?
Well, I don't know if I can tell you exactly what's going on in Mendon because I've had my head down, Chris. But for those of you that don't know me, my name is Corey Gates. I'm the building inspector, code enforcement officer here in Mendon. And Joe has asked me to fill in for him. He's going to be back next week at it, diligently attacking our budget, which is coming due the middle of September, I think, to be in front of the town board. So I know efforts are underway to work on that. I've spoken with a number of the different departments, and everyone's kind of comparing notes on the budget and trying to come up with our projections for 2027. Other topics, I know that the school tax bills are coming out, so look in your mailbox for those. If you do not receive a bill, please call the building department, assessor, town clerk. Anybody here can help you straighten around and figure out where your bill is. If you're a new resident and you're not receiving it, please reach out. Obviously, there's a time frame to settle these debts, and you don't want to be caught paying penalties and fines. I had a little 5 minutes kind of prepared to talk about zoning. It's one of the big things I do here in town. And I wanted to give a little overview on what zoning exactly is. And this is pretty general. I'll refer a lot to the things that are specific to Mendon, but zoning really doesn't differ too much from municipality to municipality. We all use the same mechanisms to try to lay down good zoning, enforce it, and kind of grow our communities with some direction and oversight. So Mendon's zoning law is primarily contained in Chapter 260 in our town code. It regulates how land might be used and where buildings and structures are located, dimensional requirements such as setbacks, lot size, and then also deals with the review process for development and proposals. Zoning regulations apply to the town of Mendon outside the incorporated village of Honeoye Falls. So some people know this, others do not. They say, well, my address is Honeoye Falls. Well, that's correct. We have, I think it's 7 or 8 different zip codes here in the town of Mendon. But there is an incorporated village, and of course, Rick can elaborate on that. And I think everybody that follows this probably knows a little bit about how our governments are set up. They're separate, but together we try to act accordingly. Anyway, so Chapter 260 in the town of Mendon zoning code, it's organized into 17 different articles. And that covers zoning districts and permitted uses, specially permitted uses, site plans, signs, fences, lighting, any variances, use or area, and then administration and enforcement relating to those items. And so in Mendon here, our zoning districts are comprised of, I don't know, 7 or so, and they're organized a little bit differently than some other towns. Generally speaking, when a town organizes their zoning, they look at their primary use within town. Some municipalities, maybe in the southern tier, that might be forestry. Up here, it's generally historically been agriculture. So ours are termed residential agricultural. And then we have a 5-acre minimum density, which is 1 lot per 5 acres. And then it goes down to 2 acres, 1 acre. We also have an RS district, which is residential suburban, and that's a 30,000 or roughly 3/4 acre size delineation per lot. We also have a business district, which primarily houses any commercial uses or business uses that fall into that. We also have an industrial district, which is primarily on the southern end of town, kind of lining Route 15A. And that's largely undeveloped at this time, but it's there. We also have environmental protection overlay districts. And a lot of people don't view this as zoning, but these are essentially conservation easements that are in play all over town for a number of different reasons. Wetlands, streams, stream protection, flood protection areas, timber harvesting and woodlots, steep slopes, to name a few. And these are an overlay district, so they are zoning and they do apply. So when you're getting ready to do a project on your property, you want to check for these things because they are applicable to all development. And they do carry certain regulations and stipulations for development. Last but not least, we do have an adult overlay district, which would be an adult use type of things. Unfortunately, we don't have any of those in town, and that is an overlay within the industrially zoned district. We have an official map that delineates all these boundaries, and it's available on the town website, townofmendon.org. You can get on there and look and see where it's parcel specific. It has all the delineated parcels, and you can see which district you live in if you're unsure. So another thing that kind of dictates zoning is whether a use is permitted, which would be outright permitted in that district, or if it's specially permitted, or if it's not permitted. One of the most important concepts, I think, for applicants is the distinction between a permitted use and then a specially permitted use. A permitted use is outright permitted if so long as it fits into the box of that use. And a use that is not specifically permitted is considered prohibited. So a especially permitted use would be one that is permitted, but by way of review. So you would have potentially an application to the planning board for a special use permit to do something in a zoning district that's only permitted specially by way of a special use permit. Let's see. Dimensional requirements, another big thing within each district. There's Article 17 in our code, I believe it's 260-106, has our chart of dimensional requirements for those zoning districts individually. They're going to basically list the things like minimum lot size. We have a minimum lot width. We have front setbacks, side setbacks, rear setbacks. We also have minimum road right-of-way width for each zoning district, building height and habitable floor area square footage minimums to name the overview of what the lion's share of those are going to be listed. Most of the residential ag districts have setback requirements of 20 feet side and rear, and then it depends on which roadway you live along. State routes carry an 80-foot front setback. Town and county roads are 60 feet front setback. And more recently, there's been a lot of discussion about the accessory structures forward of a front line of a primary residence. This has been a topic for years in Mendon. A lot of people have different thoughts on how it should be. We do allow accessory structures, pole barns, detached garages in front of the primary residence, but now you must visit the zoning board for an area variance to obtain that permission. And it's not a guarantee. You have to show hardship. And in your planning thoughts, you want to always keep that in mind. If you can put these accessory structures behind the primary residence, always neater, cleaner, and easier. So I touched on variances enforcement. Essentially, there's two kinds of variances. Those are handled by the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have area variance as discussed, which would generally going to be related to any dimensional requirements. Use variances are just that. They're going to be a relief from a non-permitted use or a specially permitted use. Use variances are really very rare. We don't issue a lot of them. I think in the 7 years or 6 years I've been here, there might have been one. You have to show a pretty extreme hardship in order to even apply for a use variance. The zoning board generally has a state mandated 5-question kind of consideration that they work from. And things like setbacks, building height, structure size, your lot area, open space, and then obviously the use, certain prohibited uses come into play when they're interviewing the applicant at a public hearing for that, to determine whether they think that the use or area variance is able to be granted. So kind of in closing there, I think the key things are, whenever you're looking at any zoning district, is to be consistent in your sequence. And firstly, you want to identify the property in the zoning district. Next, you're going to want to determine what your proposed use might be. Then next, you would basically want to know whether the use is a outright permitted use, especially permitted use, or if it's not permitted at all. There's also accessory uses. So that's another delineation between each district. Different accessory uses are allowed in different zoning districts. And then finally, you want to determine what approvals are required in order to proceed with any proposed development. And that kind of gives the audience a practical framework to work within, rather than just say, well, what's allowed? Because that's kind of a loaded question. That's pretty much what I wanted to cover with zoning. I did have a little quip here prepared for my friend Tim Schiefen. I wanted to speak about him for a minute. We've been friends for I think I met him in about 1989, and he's a Honey Falls-Lima graduate high school, and as am I. We're about 10 years apart. Both Mendon residents growing up, and Tim migrated a little bit south, and he's now in obviously West Bloomfield. And he's a real community guy. I think he and I started out in our own private business about 1995. I think that's right, Tim. Maybe you can correct me on that when you're up. I just wanted to say that, Tim being a little bit older has always been kind of a mentor to me, and somebody that I had looked up to, taught me a lot of things. He's heavily involved in any community he's a part of. He's he's been, I don't know how many years he's been involved in the Boy Scouts and fire department activities, carnival, you name it, Mendon Foundation, you name it. He's done it. He's gotten involved. He's been there getting his hands dirty, doing the things that a lot of times nobody else wants to do. So again, he's got a huge sense of community. Doesn't matter which community he's a part of. He's always an advocate for his residents and neighbors, friends, and I would say he's a man of a lot of integrity. That's all I got.
Okay, thanks, Corey. It's over to Rick in the village of Honeoye Falls. Rick, turn yourself on and tell us what's going on in Honeoye Falls.
So good to see everyone. The village is working with various levels of law enforcement, specifically the Monroe County Sheriffs, along with the DOT, local businesses, to review and consider various enforcement measures regarding excessive speeds with all types of vehicles, and also focusing on large truck traffic. This is an ongoing concern for many, and it comes up certainly each and every year during the construction season. But I've facilitated a couple of meetings as of late here at Village Hall, and multiple follow-up conversations on actionable items. I should be receiving some of the follow-up information within the next week. Monroe County Sheriffs have been very active within the community over the last month with their speed signs, monitoring traffic, some stops being made, but what we're really trying to do is look at patterns, look at how many trucks are really coming through the village, at what times, etc. And we've had a really great conversation with Heidelberg Stone Quarry. They've been very active with this project as well. So we get calls each and every year. Each one of our municipalities does. It's not just the speeders of all vehicles, which is very common, but it's the increase in construction traffic. And again, as I've said multiple times, the Village Four Corners was not made 150 years ago and plus for 48-foot or 45-foot tractor trailer trucks. But that's what we have. And we're dissected by state and county roads and roads that are supposedly made to handle this type of traffic, but probably generally on in larger confines, if you will. But listen, we're working on things. We're doing what we can to address it, and it's an ongoing discussion. This past week at our village board meeting, we had a great presentation regarding the use, the concern, and the differences between e-bikes and e-scooters and e-motos. The e-motos are the ones that are very fast. Those are not generally legal in New York State. There's three types, for the e-bikes and e-scooters. There's class 1, class 2, class 3. And it's all in the way they're propelled and how much they pedal and what kind of electrical assist they have, etc. The e-motos are the ones that go really fast and look like motorcycles. A lot of those are not even supposed to be sold in the state. So there's a lot of legislation being looked at in many communities, but also at the state level. Our biggest concerns, quite honestly, are the underaged and illegal uses on both sidewalks and on the roads, and really the concerns of e-motos. It's an ongoing concern. We understand many of the residents are concerned because these e-bikes, e-scooters, and e-motos are also generally very quiet. One of the concerns is people exiting their driveways, looking both ways, but not seeing these things, and you don't hear them. We're concerned about people getting hit, and we're just concerned about general traffic rules. So, most of these are not legal for those under the age of 16 as well. So it's a big concern. We had Connect Rochester, Rock Connect back out this week for the presentation. They did a great job. There's a lot of communities that are trying to put together legislation. Some legislation that I've reviewed would really be difficult to enforce. So if we're going to do anything here in the village, we want it to be somewhat enforceable. We want it to make sense. And, it's not that we're trying to take fun away from the youths, but we want people to be safe. And when we have people almost getting hit on the sidewalks, and some individuals just not paying any attention to any rules and regulations, that becomes a concern. So we'll continue to look at this as well. This past weekend, we had our festival at the Falls. We also had our America 250 celebration. Everything went great. We want to thank again the town of Mendon for their support and use of some of their building facilities. The one thing for that event that I do want to apologize on, though, and I mean this very sincerely, is that the porta-johns that were put in the handicap parking spaces for the weekend because the post office was closed, 5 days later were not removed. That is totally unacceptable. We have been on the phone multiple times with the company to come pick them up. As of Friday, they were not picked up in the morning. We apologize to any inconvenience that has caused any of our residents and anyone stopping at the post office. Believe me, that will be addressed for next year for sure. We will make changes. So again, our apologies for that. The fall weekend parade for the HFL school district is scheduled for October 3rd. That was one of the things we talked about at our village board meeting this past week as well. We did formally approve that parade to take place in the village on our village roads on October 3rd, Saturday. It's always a great event. So now we've put in our request for that parade permit, which will be forthcoming. But that's a big weekend in the community, so put that on your calendars. And our DPW is working diligently to look at ways to lower the salt use as we get closer to the winter months. Some of the communities surrounding us, including Mendon, use a brine mix. The village does not. We use straight salt right now. So this year we are planning to use what's called a pre-wet, which is a solution that mixes with the salt, which will lower the salt use, will be better for the environment. But it's not quite to that level of what the brine mix is. It's a pretty expensive process to get into, to convert to. Once you get there, it makes total sense. And that's what we strive to be moving towards. But we're not going to be there this year. But we're actually working with our partners in the town of Mendon as well at the Mendon DPW and Highway Department to work through that process. So that's something we're going to be looking forward to getting into in the upcoming year and the years that follow. And then lastly, I just wanted to mention for next week, the weekend of 8/28, Will Wagner, village trustee Will Wagner, will be covering for me as I'll be out of town. So it's always a pleasure to be here with all of our partners. And Chris, thanks for having us on again.
All right. Thanks, Rick. And now everyone's been waiting for Tim Sheepan of West Bloomfield. What's wild and woolly in West Bloomfield?
More like what's oversized in West Bloomfield. Thank you, Corey, for your kind words. Now that my ego is larger than the screen or my office. And great job on your spiel. Way to go. You know what? I got to be humble, and I got to let people know that the reason I do what I do and the reason I'm community minded is somebody did it for me. When I was a kid, somebody took the time to be a Cub Scout leader. When I was a kid, somebody took the time to be a Little League coach. When I was a kid, somebody took time to do a lot of kind things. And, I remember that, and I appreciate that. And my first scoutmaster was a pipe smoker, and he wasn't an outdoorsman. In all honesty, he was quite boring. And I didn't stay in scouts. They say a scout votes with his feet. We weren't having fun. Scouts weren't interesting to me, and I found more fun in Aroundacoit Creek or Pittsford Sand and Gravel's gravel pit or building tree forts. But that guy was kind, and he took the time, and he put himself forth, and he did the job. And for that, he'll have my eternal respect. And that's one of the reasons why I find it's very important to put others before yourself once in a while and put an effort out there. So that's what it's all about. It looks like I had an impact on young Mr. Gates as a youth, and he's turned out to be a pretty amiable chap himself. So anyways, with that, let's let this eagle get back down to normal size. We've got some tree removal going on at our entrance to Prouty Park. We've got bids from 3 different service companies. We got the best price from Terry Tree. I did have a question from a resident about that process and if the trees that were taken down are technically on the town's property or not. And if you go on to the Ontario County Online Resource page, you can look at the map, which is a satellite view of the properties, and you can kind of see the boundary lines. But I got to remind everyone, those are not properly accurate. They vary a couple of feet one way or the other. And after I had a nice discussion with my highway superintendent, and I looked at Encore, and I also used a different app, which my nephew uses for hunting, which represents property lines, boundaries, and ownership of property, so he's not hunting on the wrong parcel. It's my opinion that those trees are either so close to the line or they're on our side of the line, and it's in the town's best interest to take those trees down. So personally, I don't really care how much of that tree is in our right of way or not. It's a liability, and when that tree falls and causes property damage, or that tree falls and harms someone, they're going to be coming after the town of West Bloomfield. So for that matter, full speed ahead. We're getting the trees out of there, we're footing the bill. And, if people don't like that, oh, well, I'm going to err on the side of safety. Next step, organics program, otherwise known as composting. I'm about to launch a Town of West Bloomfield organics program. Ontario County is more than happy to provide compensation for the costs that we're going to incur to do this. It's basically going to be a 5-gallon pail with a lid that's got a charcoal filter on it. So if you choose to keep it in your kitchen, it's not going to stink. You could keep it on your back porch. You could keep it outside. Doesn't really matter. But we're looking for organics. So food scraps, compostable items, things that the compost company wants. We're going to have some regulations on that. There's going to be a drop-off point at our transfer station on our by Saturday dump day. And you can bring your 5-gallon pail, pour it into a tote. That tote's going to get picked up by an organics company right here locally, and it's going to be composted responsibly. That's going to reduce a considerable amount of solid waste. I've composted for a number of years at my home, and it reduces my solid waste by at least 20%, if not more. You'd be surprised at the amount of corn stalks and shucks and coffee grounds and food waste and vegetable waste and trimmings and stuff that can be diverted out of the solid waste stream and into an organics program like that. Once we've got that organics program underway and in operation, we're then going to move into a better recycling program also offered at our town transfer station. And again, there's going to be some rules, but if we can get rid of those plastics and that recyclable cardboard and the other wastes that can be responsibly recycled, I think that's in our best interest to do so. So again, that's all in an effort to save the amount of solid waste that's being generated and sent to the landfill, because at the end of 28, the Ontario County landfill is no longer going to be available to us, and we're going to have to pay more for our waste removal, and we're going to have our waste taken probably out of our county to another landfill somewhere else, and all of that's going to cost our residents a lot more money. So we need to get ahead of this, folks. We need to get this in place, organized, and we can all be better about our waste, and we can all manage more and reduce the costs overall. So that's the idea. I got to put our plug in for a local event, much like the town of Rush. Our September the 19th, it's going to be a busy day. We're going to have our Ionia Fall Festival and our tractor parade, which is one of the highlights of my year. I'm a truly blessed man. I get to be the MC for the tractor parade. I was asked to do that about 10 years ago, and I really enjoy it. I have a lot of fun. I politely make fun of a lot of our residents and the operators of these tractors, namely my real dear friend, Dick Joint, who usually brings between 13 and 16 tractors. One year he had a couple of Jethro Bodine lookalikes behind the wheel of those tractors. It really busted me right up. And it lends to have a little bit of, fun. Let's just leave it at that. It's fun. It's budget time here in the town of West Bloomfield. We're working on our 2027 budget. I'm learning quite a great deal because I am the defunct budget officer, because I don't think anybody else wants that job. I'm also officially the CFO of the town of West Bloomfield, so I need to know where the numbers are, where the money's going, where the money is, how we're going to spend it. I have a commitment to our residents to try to keep our annual tax levy at or below the 2% tax cap. It would be nice if I could keep it flat and keep your taxes where they are, and you don't have to worry about paying too much or increasing your monthly mortgage payment because your escrow account's just eating up all that money because we're a bunch of drunk sailors spending monies left and right and crazy. That's not going to happen here. I am a very responsible person, and I plan to keep my eyes focused on the numbers, keep my eyes focused on costs. We do follow the process to get the best price. We put things out to bids all the time. That's why things take so long. I got to be Mr. Thrifty Shopper on everything that we anticipate costing us money. And I work closely with the other department heads, the Justice Department, the Highway Department, our town clerk, and our building department, and we try to keep these costs in check. Speaking of the code office department, next week, I believe we will have the timer will run out for applicants for our code officer position. The town board will make its official selection, and with a little luck, we will have for the first for a long time a permanent full-time code officer dedicated to the town of West Bloomfield. Yeah, thank you, Corey. I'm excited about that. And I look forward to having a dedicated code officer that I can rely on and work with. And our residents can see the same face when they come in that they talk to on the phone. And that's the same face that's going to be out doing the inspections in person on site. And we're really eager to have that taken care of. So it's been a long time coming. It's taken me 8 months to get there, and I'm going to breathe a big sigh of relief when that aspect of our operation is filled and seated. Unfortunately, that means we have to move on to our next circumstance, and we're going to have an opening for a highway superintendent. Jeff Ball has announced his retirement out in our community focus last issue, and we're working on the policies and the procedure that's required to find a replacement for our highway superintendent. We're going to have to appoint someone for 1 year to fill Jeff's shoes and position, and then he'll have to run for that, he or she, I'm sorry, will have to run in the open election in 2027 as the highway superintendent, and hopefully our applicant might transition into that position. And hopefully we have the proper person sized up and ready to choose, but we are open for applicants. So we're looking for people to put forth a letter of interest or a resume for that position. So we have people to consider. Speaking of that, set your date for the November elections. We got a governor up for election. I would really appreciate if people could come out and make a proper choice. Maybe we can get some good leadership at the helm at the state of New York. We've got a town board position that's going to be up for election. So we've got a challenger to our currently appointed town board member. Let the best person prevail there. I'd like to see more people in our community consider running for public office. It's not a bad job. It's, you got to be a good communicator. It doesn't necessarily pay really well, but you do become part of the process, and I think that's really what's most important, to remind people that we need diversification, we need broad ideas, we need to consider other people's opinions and thoughts, and that's where we get the best results, right? When we work together, when we collaborate, when we roll up our sleeves, we put our differences aside, we set our personal opinions aside, and we get to the root of the information and the details, and we put our community at the forefront, and we make our best decisions for our township, our hamlets, and so on. So that's what I'm all about. You hear me say it all the time. In 3 years, if you don't like what I'm doing, find somebody else. I'm not here for the pay. I'm not here for the glory. I'm here to do a good job. And that's my goal in anything that I've ever done in my entire life, is to do a good job, be the best, put your best energy forth. And with that, maybe that's why me and Corey Gates are such great friends, because he's cut from the same sheet of fabric as I am. He's a top-notch guy. You guys got a great code enforcement officer over there in Mendon. I hope we get one just as good here in West Bloomfield. So have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks, Chris. Thanks,
All right.
friends. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. Anybody else remember something that they forgot to say that they'd like to say? Seeing none. Thank you, guys. Wait, did we
Happy birthday, Chris.
to who?
You.
Why? You're a month late.
Oh, see, I forgot.
All
Happy
right.
belated, I think, then.
All right. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for watching. Remember, this program airs every Sunday at 1 p.m. on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Like the page, subscribe to the channel, and those platforms will notify you when the broadcast begins. Otherwise, you can read the transcript in next week's paper. That's all for now. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye. Imagine yourself communicating with a difference. Pan-Dimensional Solutions helps you do this. Whether live spectator events, taped broadcasts, or real-time audience-engaging programs, you can benefit immediately from the tools Pan-Dimensional Solutions will share with you. Do you want to make a difference? Contact us at pandimensional.com.